With National Signing Day coming to an end earlier this week, it's time to zone in on the class of 2020, and it has a chance to go down as one of the best ever. Now, obviously, there will be a lot of movement from now until next signing day, but California has a little bit of bragging rights, with 4 of the top 11 dudes being from the Golden State. Upland's 5-star beast Justin Flowe is the #1 rated linebacker in the class of 2020, and it's easy to see why he's the #3 overall player and top guy from California when you see his tape. The other 3 guys in the top 11 include the top-rated quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, who was named the California Gatorade Player of the Year after a big-time junior campaign for St. John Bosco. Modern day's 5-star corner Elias Ricks is the #1 rated defensive back, and all he did during his junior season was pick off 9 passes and take 6 back to the house while leading the Monarchs to their 2nd consecutive CIF Open Division State Championship. The other player from California in the top 11 is Buchanan's 5-star running back Kendall MILTON, who's already landed over 40 Division I offers, and it's easy to see why, because he is one of the most gifted dudes in the country. Now, when looking at the #1 overall player from the class of 2020, it is Damascus's 5-star defensive end Bryan Bresee, and he's an absolute nightmare for opposing quarterbacks and offensive linemen. North Shore's 5-star running back Zachary Evans checks in as the #2 player, and he helped lead the Mustangs to a 16-0 record in 2018, and they finished the year as the #1 team in the final Excellent 25 rankings. Evans was named the co-junior of the year along with 2020 USC commit Bryce Young. Speaking of Young, he probably had bigger shoes to fill than any player in the country last season. He had to replace the Gatorade Player of the Year JT Daniels under center at Modern Day, and all he did was throw for nearly 4,000 yards, rush for 300 more, and account for 43 touchdowns while playing against the best competition in the country. The #4 overall player is Garfield's 5-star linebacker SAV'ELL Smalls, and even though his junior season was shortened because of an injury, he still had 7.5 sacks and 21 tackles for loss. There are 4 receivers who are 5-stars, including the Pennsylvania Gatorade Player of the Year, Julian Fleming. He is the #5 rated player overall and had nearly 1,500 yards receiving and 22 touchdowns in 2018. Calabasas' Johnny Wilson is the top-rated receiver from the West Coast, and he's one of the most special playmakers in the country. Joining Fleming and Wilson in the 5-star category is Tomball's newest weapon, DEMAS, a 2020 Texas A&M commit, and you know you're big time because he had a game last year when he touched the ball 5 times and had over 300 yards of total offense to go with 5 scores. The last 5-star receiver is RAKIM, and he got some Tyreek Hill in him. He's one of the most explosive players in the country when he has his hands on the rock, and what is most impressive about Jarrett is he puts up big-time numbers against big-time competition. Now, getting back to the top 10 players, the other guys who round out the list is 2020 Ohio State commit Paris Johnson Jr. He checks in as the #1 rated offensive tackle and is also the top dude from Ohio. Marietta's ARIK Gilbert is the top-rated athlete and is sitting at #8 overall. He has a lot of the same similarities as the 2018 Max Preps Player of the Year Brew McCoy. He's an absolute matchup nightmare on offense and can come around the edge and sack your quarterback. Saguaro's 5-star DB KELEE Ringo rounds out the top 10, and he is the #1 player overall from Arizona. During his junior campaign, opposing quarterbacks only threw his direction 5 times in 9 games. Some other notable 5-stars include St. John's MJ Sherman, who missed most of his junior campaign with an injury, but expect him to be back even stronger in 2019 for one of the best high schools in the nation. 2020 Oklahoma commit JASE McClellan checks in at #17, and when you look at Alito's 5-star running back resume, it's off the charts. 2 state titles, nearly 5,500 yards rushing, 95 touchdowns, and the Bearcats have gone 47-1 over that span. 2020 Alabama commit Chris Braswell is the top-rated weak side defensive end from 2020, and the 5-star from St. Francis Academy is following in the same footsteps as his former teammate Uiagalelei. They are 2 of the best defensive ends to ever do it from the DMV area. Now, there are a bunch of positions that could claim they are the best, but one I got circled as cornerback. We already mentioned Ricks and Ringo. There are 2 more 5-star corners. They both come from Trinity Christian Academy, but in different states. Fred Davis II is from Florida, and Dwight McGlothern is from Texas, and they were both selected on the Max Preps Junior All-American team. Some other notable corners include 2020 Oklahoma commit Darion Green Warren, who helps give Modern Day the best secondary in the country, teaming up with Ricks. Miami Central's Henry Gray is a baller too. There's a good chance both these guys end up 5-stars when it's all said and done, and you can expect my guy Clark Phillips III to be a 5-star too. He's a shutdown corner, and he showed during his junior season how explosive he can be at wide receiver. He had over 1,200 yards and 19 touchdowns. Some other notable 4-star corners include former St. John's corner Luke Hill, who is now at St. Francis Academy. You also got 2020 Texas A&M commit Jalen Jones, Fred Davis's teammate at Trinity Christian Miles Brooks, IMG Academy's legend Cavazos, who is one of the most versatile DBs in the country, and Narbonne has a bunch of ballers in the secondary led by Brandon Jones, Mason Williams, JJ Greenfield, and Anthony Beavers Jr. The quarterback, wide receiver, and running back positions is also off the charts. We already mentioned DJ and Bryce Young. Some notable 4-stars include Duncanville's Jaquindon Jackson. He's one of the baddest dudes in the country, and it's crazy how he isn't a 5-star yet. Liberty's Jay Butterfield helped lead them to a state title in 2018. 2020 Tennessee commit Harrison Bailey is the top-rated gunslinger from Georgia. 2020 Ohio State commit Jack Miller keeps the trend of stud quarterbacks from Arizona going. 2020 LSU commit Max Johnson is following in the same footsteps as the Super Bowl winning dad Brad Johnson. Another big-time LSU commit is TJ Finley. He checks in as a number 8 pro-style QB. Norco, Shane Illingworth, and 4-star athlete Jaden Navarrete are one of the best set of teammates in all of California. And then looking at the dual-threat quarterbacks, you got 2020 Texas commit Hudson Card, who showed he's right there with all of the past great QBs from Lake Travis High School. Sticking in Texas, Fort Bend Marshall's Malik Hornsby is one of the most talented players from 2020. Hoover's Robbie Ashford is a straight baller, and Jalen Suggs is one of the best multi-sport athletes in the nation. He helped lead his team to a state title in football in 2018 and is a top 10 recruit on the hardwood. There are some big-time playmakers on the outside too. That includes St. Thomas Aquinas' 5-star Marcus Rosemy. Aquinas has produced a ton of NFL players, and Rosemy looks like he will be playing on Sundays too down the road. Jermaine Burton is one of the sauciest receivers in the game. 2020 NC State commit Porter Rooks is must-watch TV. Jalen McMillan is one of the best in all of California. 2020 Ohio State commit G. Scott Jr. is one of the top players on the West Coast. And watch out for Eastside Catholic in 2019. They're one of the most talented teams in the country. A couple more dudes from the Golden State include Corona Centennial's Gary Bryant Jr. and Gardena Sarah's LV Bunkley Shelton, who just broke Robert Wood's school record during his junior season for most receptions in a year. And Javian Hester is the next big-time player from Oklahoma, joining his former high school teammate Daxton Hill, who is a 2019 Michigan signee. The running back position is just as good as any other in 2020. We already mentioned Evans, Milton, and McClellan. DeMathis, Marshawn Lloyd, and Lakeland's DeMarcus Bowman round out the 5-stars, and they're both two of the most explosive in the country. South Point Catholic's Beyond Robinson put up big-time numbers during his junior season, rushing for 2,400 yards and 35 touchdowns. Former Oklahoma commit Jalen Knighton is as saucy as any other dude in the class. The 4-star back from Deerfield Beach is must-watch TV, and the son of the NFL's all-time leading rusher. E.J. Smith is one of the best playmakers, and expect a huge senior season from the 4-star running back from Dallas Jesuit. Before we wrap up the show, let's check out some other notable players on defense. George County's 5-star McKinley Jackson is the top-rated defensive tackle in 2020. Hillgrove's 5-star defensive end Miles Murphy is a top 15 player overall. Woodbridge's 5-star linebacker Antoine Sampa is always flying over the field and is one of the most defensive players in the country. Lee County's 5-star Desmond Evans checks in as the number 1 player from North Carolina and is the 3rd-rated weak side defensive end in 2020. There are some big-time safety prospects in this class that include Duncanville's 4-star Chris Thompson Jr., South Lake Carroll's R.J. Mickens. He is the son of 13-year NFL veteran Ray Mickens, and R.J. is the top-rated safety among all rising seniors. 2020 Oregon commit Avante Williams is one of the best from Florida. St. Francis Academy had one of the best defenses last season and expect the same in 2019 with a lot of its players coming back, including 4-star safety Jordan Tolles. Now, a couple guys to watch for that will jump in the rankings are Nakai Meredith from Bishop Sullivan Catholic. He's one of the top prospects from the DMV area. And Via Park, Zion Alafazio. He has one of the best highlight tapes in the country. And the last dude I want to mention is another guy who has the talent to be a top 10 player in this class, and it is Mater Dei's 4-star offensive tackle Miles Morale. He suffered a season-ending injury during his junior campaign, but he's arguably the best offensive lineman in the country and the number 1 player from 24/7 Sports composite rankings in the class of 2019. IMG Academy's Nolan Smith said he was the toughest guy he ever lined up against during his high school career, so you know he's one of the best. And for a complete list of the player rankings for the class of 2020, just go to 247sports.com.